With CP, the male lead appears late, and there is a connection between the male and female leads. Fu Yurong came from thousands of years later. While searching for and learning about ancient Chinese civilization through time, she accidentally stumbled into a live variety show due to a machine accident. So others are struggling to survive on a deserted island, but she relies on a variety of Chinese skills to turn the island's life into poetry. Under the crushing force of the fault, the teammates successfully learned the face-changing technique, my initial teammate. Disdainful of dragging oil bottles, teammate after being slapped. Attempting to imitate Omega. Teammate after being impressed. Big Boss Tietie, hungry, meal, boss. I can raise the price of aged vinegar by myself. In summary, 1 sentence, 2 sentences. Let variety shows roll up. Hualiu is the most outstanding. Chapter 1. Wearing into live variety. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Warning. Warning. The machine has insufficient energy, passengers are advised to take safety measures. Warning. Warning. The machine has insufficient energy, passengers are advised to take safety measures. Warning. Warning. The machine has insufficient energy, passengers are advised to take safety measures. Before the intense sense of weightlessness struck, Fu Yurong had only had time to fasten the seatbelt, so as not to be knocked unconscious in the turbulence of time. In order to protect the safety of passengers' lives, the time spacecraft 03 has activated self-protection mode, randomly selecting a small world for target body fusion. Discovering the best goal. At a moment of blurred consciousness, Fu Yurong vaguely heard these words and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. At least it can be considered saved. Hiss. The pattering sound of rain disturbed people's clear dreams, and when Fu Yurong reopened his eyes, he only felt a headache unbearable. She knew that this was a consequence of time leap and memory fusion. After a few minutes of daze and receiving information from her mind, she realized that the headache might also be related to the health status of this body. She is currently suffering from a high fever. The muscle soreness caused by the high fever was very obvious. Fu Yurong got up from where she was lying and dragged her heavy footsteps to look around. She found that the place she was currently in was almost surrounded by walls. This is a poorly organized cave, with nothing but a layer of semi-wet grass and a quiet chicken-like camera underneath her. It's quite primitive. From the memories she received, she was currently participating in a live variety show called Island Survival. The program invited 2 men and 2 women as guests, but the other 3 were nowhere to be seen in this barely sheltered cave. The original owner seems to not very popular. It can even be said that he was isolated in the program. Fu Yurong frowned and recalled the original owner's memories about this program, but unexpectedly found that this cold and violent isolation was almost entirely facilitated by the director of the program team. The other 3 guests participating in the program are a powerful actor, a popular young student from a youth idol drama background, and a storefront captain of a rising girl group. The original owner, Fu Yurong, said that being red is not red, and that being inferior is not considered inferior. It belongs to the type where the acting skills are repeatedly praised by people, but the drama stars are not popular. The company originally intended to promote her as the leading actress, but it really fulfilled that sentence. Xiao Hong relies on praise, De Hong relies on fate. A lot of public relations expenses and resources have been thrown down, just to hear a sound. In addition, the original owner was introverted and didn't have any trouble, so the company gradually implemented a free-range policy for her. The popularity of Island Survival is not low, and this kind of cake could not have fallen on the original owner's head. It was only because the company had originally planned another little flower who was recently rumored to be involved, and the senior management was afraid that she would make some dirty spots in front of the live broadcast camera, that they urgently withdrew her schedule. Department head Lin couldn't bear to see her buried, so after various activities, she took on this program for her. This kind of changing guests halfway is actually not very friendly for the guests who receive the cake. Before the program even started broadcasting, the original owner's Weibo comments section was flooded by fans of the original Xiaohua. There is a default law in the circle. Appropriately abusing fans is the best way to solidify them. The original plan was that Xiaohua was pleased with the angry behavior of her fans, but not only did she not stop it, but she also intended to indulge and guide them. So much so that the original owner was labeled as a scheming woman early on. The company is well aware of the undercurrents in the art world, but unfortunately, whoever is popular has reason. The senior management only wanted to remind them not to go too far and tacitly agreed to the public relations approach of the Xiaohua team. Lin Jie was afraid that the original owner would become emotional and didn't want to appear on this program, so she privately guided her many times. In the entertainment industry, as long as it is not a principled mistake that will result in being banned and boycotted, black and red are always better than checking for this person. The company's attitude towards the original owner destined her to be the first option for sacrifice in the program director's position. The favorite thing about variety shows is to take a conflict route, and the best candidates are all on hand. The director never leaves it out. Under his deliberate arrangement, the original owner always receives the most difficult and impossible tasks. Once, twice, 3 times as the number of failed tasks increases, the original owner is inevitably seen as a drag on the team by several other guests. Melancholy, obstructing, lacking team spirit, more and more negative labels are being attached to her. Today is their 3rd day on the island, and the progress of building a house is worrying. Several people are living in a small dilapidated wooden house on the island. It is said to be a wooden house, but in fact, it is extremely simple. In the event of strong winds and heavy rain, the safety is not as good as a cave. This morning, the original owner was assigned the task of preparing wood, but the weather was not beautiful. Shortly after going out, it rained heavily. Thinking of this, Yurong frowned deeply. It is understandable for the production team to create conflicts, but such conflicts are built on the basis of not treating guests as human beings. She pressed the contact phone, but there was not a single phone number on it. Thinking of the reason why he was able to wear it, Yurong's heart was filled with anger. She comes from an unparalleled country thousands of years later. Times have changed, culture has declined, and development has brought humanity into the interstellar world, but it has also lost those brilliant ancient civilizations. The art-seeking plan took decades from its inception to become fully operational. She is one of the candidates selected by the government to participate in the plan. The selected individuals are randomly placed through time machines in the time and space of ancient China, where splendid civilizations have emerged. With the help of the most suitable carrier in that time and space, they fully integrate into local life. Silk reeling, mortise and tenon construction, embroidery. After achieving success in learning, one can leap to another era through machines, and so on. Although she arrived at this time and space by accident, one thing is certain: at the same moment that she appeared here, the consciousness of the original owner had already dissipated, and she could live on the body of the original owner. Weakness, fatigue, high fever, and sudden cardiac death are the culprits who killed the original owner, and the director behind the manipulation of the culprit is the one who looks at people and dishes. Just as she was angry about the original owner, some important information suddenly flashed through her mind. Yurong was taken aback and pressed his phone again. Reading guide. Accept any criticism related to the plot and logic, but do not accept guidance on character design, especially when using personal preferences and common routines to set templates for my characters. As the saying goes, I want to write my own story in my heart, and I don't want to write template-style novels that are poorly written by the public. If there are any private devices, I will inform you in advance, hoping that the children can understand each other. What I can guarantee is that the protagonist's values are absolutely positive. This point and the following 2 points were added by me after writing chapter 105. This book has a CP, although I only filled in the protagonist's name as the female lead. I clearly chose the modern romance label for the novel. Because the male lead's role is far inferior to that of the female lead, and may even be less than a few regular guests in the variety show, the protagonist's name was not set. I was afraid that some readers might mistake it for non-CP, so I modified the text. I saw several comments that were against the female protagonist for giving the other 3 guests, believing that they all had a share in forcing the original protagonist to death. I have made a unified explanation here, and if there are similar questions in the future, I should not respond again. The reason why the original protagonist had an accident was due to a twist of fate. Her filming team went to the original director to discuss it, but later she and the team got separated and died of a high fever and convulsion in a cave, which happened to be replaced by the female protagonist. Everyone thinks that the other 3 guests are also the culprits, which means they isolated the original owner. But in fact, I have specifically explained in the plot that the original protagonist's personality is not very likable and a bit reclusive. This personality is already at a disadvantage in the group, and the original director team has deliberately amplified this flaw, making her appear even more annoying. For other guests, they are like hot faces sticking to cold buttocks. Putting aside the female lead's identity and thinking from her perspective, if you encounter such a person in real life, will you subconsciously distance yourself? Being far away without any reason is called isolation, and this kind of distance with a reason can only be said to be different and not mutually beneficial. When the original owner had not returned yet, ʃTeammate suggested that there was no need to look for anyone, but in their understanding, there was a PD and a cameraman next to the original owner, and the PD had contact tools. No one received any news of the accident, and everyone's task was not completed, so they naturally gave up. Only Zhao Xiwen has incited fans through words for competitive purposes. Although her methods are not mainstream, they are also the norm in current domestic entertainment. Later on, she realized that she couldn't keep up with the female lead even if she flattered her, and it was just normal thinking to join if she couldn't beat her. In my opinion, these 3 individuals did not harm the original owner to the extent that some readers claimed. What directly caused the original owner to have an accident was the malicious director's team who sent her a difficult task. ʃTeammate understands this, but as an artist, he is most hesitant to confront the director group head. Similar to the current wise choice of people to protect themselves. However, he has also tried to use words to break free from the original protagonist. People are not perfect, and I often say that there is no black or white in the adult world. A few people are not unforgivable, and they should correct their mistakes in a timely manner. How could the female protagonist forgive them and say that their values are not upright? Regarding the progress of building a house. Truly speaking, building a house takes a long time, not to mention that the female lead doesn't have any materials at hand and has to do everything on site. The label of this book is the entertainment industry, not infrastructure. I definitely have to write it together with other related tasks and activities. Variety shows are just about showcasing some interesting things that happen to a group of people on the show. Over 100 chapters, covering plots including but not limited to cooking, building houses, delivering babies, performing, avoiding danger, auctions, and more. Each plot has been carefully considered by me, striving not to write about those repetitive points. This book doesn't follow the style of cool writing, but readers often ask me for the rhythm of cool writing and think that I have a watery plot, but what I write is really the flow of daily life. Omega La. I will carefully read everyone's comments. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment in the paragraph and I will reply. I can't see the comments in the chapter comments in the background. I can read the comments in the reader's comments, but I can't reply. I hope the children have a good time watching. Chapter 2. Face and Heart Disharmony Trio. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why hasn't Yurong come back yet? Should we go find her? I'm worried something might happen. It's raining so hard today, and she's been out for several hours. ʃTeammate put down half of the wood he had sawed in his hand and said anxiously. He just won the Best Actor trophy this year, which can be considered as officially recognized by the industry. Because the tone of the films used to compete for awards is mostly heavy, and after portraying the protagonist with multiple personality split, his overall state is not good, always with a sense of immersion. Coincidentally, the production team of Island Survival invited his studio, and his agent suggested that he participate in a variety show to relax. After considering for a few days, ʃTeammate agreed. However, after less than 3 days on the island, he began to suspect that he was not here to relax, but to suffer. Surviving live variety shows have been a hot topic in the past 2 years, and there are many programs of this type. However, the program group they are currently in is particularly serious, without even a decent shelter from the wind and rain. The main feature is to watch the usually glamorous celebrities on the island, who are exposed to the wind and sun, one by one exhausted into salted fish. The most bizarre thing is that this inhumane style has really attracted many loyal fans. Although some fans of celebrities are not willing to watch their main characters suffer, due to the popularity and status of this program, they still hold their noses and endure it. ʃTeammate has a relatively gentle personality, but he doesn't really care about Yurong dragging his feet or anything. A discerning person knows at first glance that those tasks cannot be successfully completed by a thin and weak little girl. No one who can get around in this circle is a fool. The girl was obviously used by the production team as a target for creating conflicts. He did try to help out, but unfortunately Yurong didn't seem to appreciate it very much. Of course, it may also be due to poor expression. This seemingly awkward and silent lack of sociability is the real reason why she has aroused the opposition of the guest group. Didn't the director and her team say they had someone follow her? They just asked someone to find her. The island is not steep and there are no wild beasts, so there's no possibility of anything going wrong. The young man has a clear voice and handsome features, just like the popular young student Hualiu. He spoke casually, without any understanding of ʃTeammate's concerns. Yurong has an unpleasant personality, and they haven't finished their own tasks yet. The director team has already gone to find someone, and he really doesn't want to waste time looking for her. I can't finish the task today, and I have to eat boiled cabbage again tonight. I have eaten boiled cabbage 3 times in a row, and if I continue to eat it, I will have to wait. ʃTeammate was speechless. Just now, he was thinking that there were no fools in this circle. How could he just turn around and come over? He was still a foolish and sweet person who would believe the director's lies. Just like the director's perfunctory attitude at the time, if the other party really calls someone to find that girl, he will directly give them the Best Actor trophy as a ball to kick. However, everyone in the industry knows that Hualiu comes from a prominent family background, and joining the entertainment industry is purely a hobby. One day, if someone is unhappy, they can directly go home and become the crown prince of their group. Only this kind of wealthy young man with a strong backbone dares to maintain a ridiculous innocence in the muddy waters of the entertainment industry. Yeah, Luogu makes sense. Chen-gu, let's hurry up and complete the task assigned by the director. As soon as Luoyu's delicate voice sounded, he couldn't help but want to roll his eyes. He really can't stand this kind of girl who looks like a white lotus. Compared to Yurong, Zhao Xiwen and Yurong are evenly matched. They are both good at whatever they do, but Zhao Xiwen has a sweet mouth and can speak. Coupled with Yurong's comparison, even a third of them are 6 points better. Unfortunately, the audience bought her account, Chen Luoyu. Cool guy with fiery eyes and golden eyes. I will never be confused by the white lotus flower. Every day, Luogu screamed, making him goosebumps. Zhao Xiwen remained silent for a moment, revealing a half-aggrieved expression. She pretended to be strong and held back, continuing her work as if nothing had happened, striving to improve her professional image. What exactly is Yurong doing? Dragging his feet every day. My brother Li is really handsome and kind-hearted, and I even wanted to find her. No, can't you really see that Yurong took the terrible script given to her by the production team? I can't see what's wrong with the beautiful woman. As soon as a little girl left for so long, the live broadcast footage over there even broke. It's really like a few years ago when the Blue Channel caused a lot of trouble to know if she's afraid. The actor and the prince are amazing, their attitude towards my family 1-1. Is the good girl Goose going to suffer injustice when she appears on this program? Does the production team really think that there are no more people on Xiaowenzi's side on this side? The guest group was scattered like sand, with fans from various bullet screens arguing fiercely. On the other side, director Yang Jingyao, who was filming with Fu Yurong, was worried and worried. She has been spending the past few days with Fu Yurong and knows that this girl's character is not bad, even more sincere than many people in the circle. Even though she knows that the task cannot be completed, she has been silently working hard. She really can't bear to see such a good child being used by the director's team to make fun of. Today, when she saw the task received by the other party, she exploded. Before leaving, she only had time to remind the other party not to go far, so she ran to the director to argue logically. Who would have thought that it began to rainstorm on the island just after she left? She thought that there would be no problem if there was a camera brother following her. As a result, that guy was also called away by the director's team for an excuse. Even if you're a prank, don't wear such a thing. In such bad weather, even a little girl on the other side didn't know if she had found a place to take shelter from the rain, and the live broadcast equipment didn't know what was wrong. Even the live broadcast room went black. Yang Jingyao looked at the imprecise location on her phone and shouted the name of Fu Yurong loudly. She's really fed up with this director. If she makes some achievements, she'll just drift away. There are also his backers in the upper echelons of the stage, and this person's behavior is becoming increasingly arrogant and bad. When will someone come to take care of such a bad person? Yurong. Fu Yurong. Can you hear me? What you hear should be heard. She was in a state of panic, always feeling that something might have happened. Asterisk in the cave, Fu Yurong, who had just finished listening to a long recording on his phone, had deep eyes. Some people's faces and eating habits are really ugly. However, to her surprise, the original owner was not too foolish and knew to record those conversations as a weapon to protect herself. Unfortunately, fate is truly harsh and ruthless towards the original owner. Since she has taken over this body for the other party now, it is natural to help her seek justice and seek justice. For a moment, Fu Yurong was immersed in his thoughts and did not notice that the live streaming equipment that had previously had some problems due to water ingress had quietly resumed. I'm convinced, but luckily my brother Li is still worried about her. Is this person hiding here and daydreaming? Will you not go back even after the rain stops, Ji? The remotely controlled camera suddenly turned direction and made a subtle sound. Fu Yurong's ears twitched, and before anyone could react, he picked up a small stone from the ground and threw it towards the place where the noise was coming from. Chapter 3. The wind direction of bullet curtain rises and falls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fu Yurong felt a bit regretful. She had already observed this cave when she woke up. The cave has a small area and everything is at a glance, with no one else besides her. Could it be that something sneaked in when she wasn't paying attention? It was her carelessness. In addition, her body is currently experiencing a high fever, and her dull mind has dulled her senses a lot. If it were in the martial arts world that she had worn through to learn Chinese martial arts before, she might not have been able to save her life at this moment. There is no reason for any movement to occur, it can't be the camera that turned off. Right. As soon as this idea appeared, Fu Yurong thought of the crisp sound of the stone shattering just after it was thrown out, and she suddenly froze. No, isn't it? She felt guilty and turned her head, then turned to the camera that had finally come back to life and was shot through with a stone by her. Fu Yurong. Camera. For a moment, she felt as if she had seen the words, resentment, in a cold lens. At this moment in the live broadcast room, due to the accident just now, the barrage has already exploded. Fu Yurong's single-person live broadcast room went black, and after discussing for a while, the audience felt unsatisfied before rushing into the main live broadcast room. In the main live broadcast room, there is a summary of the seating positions of each guest. Someone also happened to see the scene of Fu Yurong throwing stones, and collided with those who couldn't wait to discuss. The barrage presented a fountain-like eruption posture. No joke. The second she threw the stone over, I had the illusion of being hit by her across the screen. +1. +2. +10086. No, has this girl recently taken on any martial arts scripts? What kind of martial arts women are she in contact with? To be unbiased, her actions and gaze really have a strong sense of immersion. My heart is still beating wildly, and her expression at that time seemed to be looking at a dead object, ready to kill her opponent with one blow. Also, have you noticed that before making the attack, she even moved her ears, like those experts in the drama who listen to everything and kill in the blink of an eye? Is it only me lamenting her speed and strength when she made a move? Although I can't see the damage to the camera, if nothing unexpected happens, the camera is 100% scattered. It's really impressive. This kind of reaction and gesture must have martial arts skills. It's not something ordinary people can do. The first time I got her beauty, the stone hit my heart in one fell swoop. What? What are you talking about? What kind of female hero, what kind of expert? Did I miss out on something? Confused and pressured. By the way, did any of you record that clip? It happened so suddenly that I didn't react. Me too, in the blink of an eye, the live broadcast room went black. I seem to have recorded it, but it's not a single shot from her live broadcast room. I was in the main live broadcast room and heard Luogu humming a song. Just as I was about to record a segment, the girls suddenly took action. Just record it. Whether it is a single person or not. Ask for the video, sisters. Regardless of what they saw or didn't see, everyone began to work together in the live broadcast room to start recording screens. The surge in barrage in the live broadcast room has also caught the attention of the director's team. What's going on? Director Hualiu frowned and asked. The barrage suddenly erupted, either with some highlights appearing, or with a program team or guest appearing on the trending black search. Thinking of the wilting faces of several guests, it really doesn't seem like they can create any highlights. Hualiu crossed out the previous possibility and took out his phone to click on the hot search list. I don't know either, it seems like. What did Fu Yurong do? The equally confused assistant director drove his trumpet to the live broadcast room and squatted for a few minutes, drawing a conclusion from the rapidly rolling barrage that he himself didn't quite believe. Tisk. Hualiu impatiently clicked, this person must have done something wrong. Asterisk, Fu Yurong. Did you hear it? You heard a squeak. The road was a bit steep, and Yang Jingyao was shouting at the top of her voice while climbing, feeling exhausted and panting for breath. If she can't find anyone again, no matter what the director's team says, she must report to the police. She is the co-director of the other party, and a living human life cannot be sacrificed just like this in the terrible script of Hualiu's sword going astray. If the production team cannot accommodate her because of this, at most she can pack up and leave. I don't want to stay here, I have my own place to stay. Fu Yurong vaguely heard someone calling out to her and listened for a while. The more he listened, the more familiar the voice became. It seems like it's Yang PD from the phone recording who went to argue with the director for her. Yang Jie. I'm here. She quickly got up and moved to the entrance of the cave, shouting in response. It's not that she doesn't want to walk further outside, but rather that her body is really weak. The strength of throwing the stone just now was still triggered by a sense of crisis. After realizing that it was a false alarm, she felt as if she had lost her strength, and even taking one more step would be difficult. No matter how powerful the inner world is, without a good body, it cannot be carried at all. It's not an exaggeration to say that she's even breathing hot at the moment, indicating that she might have burned to 40 degrees. Young Jingyao, who had been flustered for a while, finally heard a response, and her hanging heart could finally be put back into her stomach. She quickly followed the sound and found Fu Yurong standing at the entrance of the cave. As soon as she saw him, she almost burst into tears of joy. Great! Are you okay? You're really scared to death. The live broadcast camera is broken, but the radio equipment is still on. The audience squatting in the live broadcast room felt a bit embarrassed when they heard Yang Jingyao's voice. So she really got separated from the co-director and the others, wasn't she deliberately avoiding leisure? Listening to her voice, it feels like she's not in good condition, she's all hoarse. I apologize for what I said to her today. Why didn't the director's team find someone when the guests got separated? I was extremely scared when I thought about it. Don't be prepared to learn the same way that Blue Channel disregards human life, right? Fu Yurong had already found it a bit difficult to breathe, and being held by Yang Jingyao, she almost missed it on the spot. Yang. Sister Yang, if you hold me down again, I'll have something to do. Ah. I'm sorry. Why are you so hot on your body? Are you feverish? Yang Jingyao realized later that her body temperature was abnormal. I've been caught in the rain and have a fever. Fu Yurong said hoarsely. I remember there were accompanying doctors in the group, did anyone bring a silver needle? I need to get myself a few injections. Neither of them noticed the device still receiving the sound, let alone the direction of the barrage changed again due to Fu Yurong's words. I just felt a little distressed for her, but I did this. I need to prick myself with some needles. Can anyone try acupuncture and moxibustion at will? If I prick the wrong acupoint, it is possible to become hemiplegia. Even if I want to be sensationalized, I don't need to make fun of my body, do I? Chapter 4. The director's team dies again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Known. Fu Yurong graduated from Central Academy of Drama, majoring in performance in college, and attended a certain experimental high school in S-City in high school. His ancestors did not have any elders in the medical industry. May I ask? Is this sister showing off? Does this still need to be asked? They almost slapped you in the face with the word show off. The filter of the Xianyan just now shattered instantly, and I started to feel embarrassed for her. What kind of character is not good, someone like Li who cannot withstand scrutiny? Suddenly thought. She wouldn't have intentionally destroyed the camera and pretended not to know that the radio was still on, specifically performing this play for us, right? Is this the actor's self-cultivation? I also want to say that, Fu looks like a scheming bitch at first glance. I don't understand why you have such great malice towards her. You almost conspired to come up with a palace battle scene in just one sentence. It's better to accumulate some oral virtues in life to avoid creating any karma for yourself. She's obviously really uncomfortable, she really impressed you keyboard warriors. Discomfort is discomfort, and show is show. Is there any conflict between these two things? Medical students don't necessarily dare to say that they want to prick themselves. One of her actors said that they want to give themselves acupuncture and moxibustion. There was a lot of noise on the barrage. On the director's side, the assistant director who had been playing on a small account eating melon missed the scene of the heroine, but did not miss the sentence spoken by Fu Yurong, and broadcasted it in real time to Hualiu. Shoo. Hualiu curled his lips and sneered coldly. After staying in the entertainment industry for a long time, you can really see anyone. He has seen many people who have established a medical character, but this is the first time he has seen someone who has established a medical character. Are you in such a hurry to become famous? He can help her, and then see how she plans to turn this flawed character back into reality. Yurong, listen to me. I'll go find Dr. Wang and show you. Let's not do it ourselves. Upon hearing Fu Yurong's request, Yang Jingyao felt a thump in her heart. Her first reaction was to look at the camera behind them, and then, at a glance, she saw the scattered lens. Despite her confusion about how the camera came to this, she instinctively breathed a sigh of relief. Like everyone else, she also felt that the other person was setting a character. Before, she thought this girl was obedient, but she didn't expect that she would start a big trouble as soon as something happened. If a person is well established, their ability to attract fans is impressive, but if they are not well established, there are also many celebrities who are backfired by their reputation. As soon as the words, "give yourself a few injections," came out, Yang Jingyao felt that it was about to overturn. It's okay with the mirror. Before she could finish speaking, she caught a glimpse of the nearby radio device still flashing red light, and immediately swallowed the latter half of the sentence. My mood is not just about ups and downs that can be described. She took a deep breath, and before she could think of any words to help the girl turn the situation around, the phone in her pocket shook. When she saw Hualiu's name, her disgust reached its peak. If it weren't for her still working under the other person's hands, she really wouldn't want to answer this phone call. The situation is stronger than people. After waiting for a few seconds, she finally picked it up. Before she could say anything, the other party had already taken the lead and said, "If Fu Yurong wants a silver needle, give her a silver needle." Yang Jingyao couldn't believe what she heard. Director. Her anger surged into her throat, to the point where it would suffocate her if she didn't erupt. At the moment before spitting out the fragrance, her last shred of reason reminded her that the radio was still on and that she needed to argue further away. When she walked out of the cave and was ready to argue with that foolish director, she realized that he had already hung up. Yang Jingyao ************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* <coughs> and the other Dr. Yi, majoring in traditional Chinese medicine. Coincidentally, Dr. Yi went down to the island today due to some business. There must be a silver needle in the team, but she wouldn't dare to give it directly to Fu Yurong. Yurong, come with me first to find Dr. Wang, let's see what he says first. Fu Yurong is still suffering from a high fever at the moment, so he cannot delay it any longer. In case something happens again. So Yang Jingyao made a decisive decision and did not give the other party a chance to refute. She picked up the broken camera with one hand and prepared to take the patient down the mountain with the other. Fu Yurong remained silent for a moment, but still followed her path and walked out. There has always been a discussion about the superiority and inferiority of traditional Chinese and Western medicine, but this is not a question with an absolute answer. Both sides have their strengths and weaknesses. According to her current physical condition, unless the accompanying doctor has some special antipyretic drugs, it is really not as useful as acupuncture and moxibustion. If this high fever continues, it will make her brain boil. When she found Dr. Wang, Yang Jingyao saw the deputy director standing next to him at a glance, and she had an ominous feeling in her heart. Dr. Wang, please help Yurong take a look, she has a high fever. As soon as Yang Jingyao saw the deputy director opening his mouth and wanting to speak, she immediately interrupted and silently observed the surrounding machine positions. This group of angry dogs. The health and safety of young celebrities are not as important as their perceived popularity. When there was no topic, they would try their best to find one, not to mention that it was Fu Yurong who brought the topic to their hands this time. The temperature is too high, 40.3 degrees Celsius. Dr. Wang took out a forehead thermometer to measure her temperature, and immediately frowned. The medical conditions on the island are average, and such a severe high fever may not be easy to handle. Have you used Antongling injection before? He flipped out the medicine box and looked at the existing fever-reducing drugs, feeling that none of them were ideal. Used, allergic, Fu Yurong replied hoarsely. Upon hearing her say this, Dr. Wang's brow furrowed even tighter. When suffering from a high fever, it is necessary to immediately reduce the fever. In case of any serious complications, the consequences will be unimaginable. Injection cannot be used, oral medication takes too long to take effect. He first took out a fever-reducing patch and slapped it on the little girl's forehead, while still thinking about what medicine to prepare for her. It's so serious. We need to go down to the island and see the hospital. But the weather is not good today, and the director contacted the ships outside, saying it's not suitable to ship at this time. The assistant director who had been waiting on the side finally found an opportunity to naturally join the conversation. After pausing for 2 seconds, he hesitated again and said, I heard that Yurong knows acupuncture and moxibustion and wants to use silver needles to reduce the fever. There is still a hint of helplessness, concern, and admiration on the face. You can't even act as an actor. Young Jingyao was both anxious and angry, about to interject and say something, when Dr. Wang first spoke in surprise, do you understand traditional Chinese medicine? Fu Yurong comforted Yang Jingyao's hand and nodded at Dr. Wang, saying, I have a slight understanding of the surface. Little girl, acupuncture and moxibustion is not something that can be tried without knowing anything. It's very dangerous. I'll prescribe some medicine for you to eat first, and then cooperate with physics to cool down to see how the effect of reducing fever is. Dr. Wang advised painstakingly. He doesn't know about these stars, nor does he have a preference for likes and dislikes. He only thinks that the girl is beautiful, and he is afraid that she is temporarily distracted and jokes about acupuncture and moxibustion. Joking is a small matter, it's too late to regret causing physical problems. Look, the doctors think she's showing off, it's really enough. Dr. Wang's careless words made the black man in the live broadcast room even more rampant. Chapter 5. Small Trial Ox Knife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Where were the people who helped her speak just now? Why didn't they speak up? The doctor has a really good temper and speaks quite tactfully. What's the difference between Fu Yurong's behavior and those who don't follow the doctor's advice and cause trouble? Ha ha ha, I'm laughing to death. I'm begging for a hammer. It's the first time I've seen a character collapse so quickly. Has this person been established for an hour? Sister. With such a beautiful face and impressive acting skills, can't you film as well as before? Although you haven't been a big hit, at least your reputation is good and you won't be criticized. If I had to say that you shouldn't have appeared on this variety show, suffering and being bullied. Can Fu's fans speak well now? Who bullied her? It's just like saying a lot of grievances. It's her who's holding her back, and her character design is also her own. Okay, as soon as Dr. Wang's words came out, Yang Jingyao let out a mournful cry in her heart. She didn't even need to look to know how high the barrage mockery value could be at this moment. How about? She held on to Fu Yurong and admitted her mistake, standing at attention and getting beaten was better than being completely unable to come down later. She tugged at the other person's hem and gestured with her eyes to Fu Yurong not to say anything irreparable. Unexpectedly, the girl only gave her a quiet glance, with no signs of panic on her face. She even smiled at her with a confident expression. It's strange to say that even though it was a completely bottomless situation, the other person's glance quickly calmed her down. And silently began to waver. Does Fu Yurong really understand acupuncture and moxibustion? Dr. Wang, I can tell you which acupoint I plan to puncture first, and you can listen to me if it's right. If it's right, I'll take action, Fu Yurong said calmly. In the memory of the original owner, she saw Dr. Wang and Dr. Yi get together to discuss traditional Chinese medicine, and knew that he was interested in traditional Chinese medicine, especially acupuncture and moxibustion. In addition, he is a professional doctor. Acupoints are something that medical students who have not yet graduated must master. Therefore, Dr. Wang may not understand the practice of acupuncture and moxibustion, but he probably knows the basic theory. Dr. Wang wants to say that theory belongs to theory, and practice belongs to practice. These two are completely incomparable, Otherwise, why do people always say that what is gained on paper is shallow? But as soon as he met the other person's round eyes filled with serious expressions, he couldn't say these hurtful words. Thinking it wouldn't hurt to listen, he simply nodded. When the high fever persists, the first step is to clear heat and cool blood. Fu Yurong took a breath and pointed out the treatment method. The damage of extreme high fever to human functions is incalculable. If not treated in a timely manner, once it causes complications, especially in the brain or heart, the consequences can be unimaginable. Fu Yurong's breath was burning, and he felt a bit drowsy. Upon hearing this, Dr. Wang nodded. However, this superficial and general treatment method is clear to anyone with some common sense, and it does not necessarily mean anything. Take the acupoints at the end of the limbs, the hand-yang ming meridian, and the governor vessel as the main points, with the main points being Dazhui, Higu, Tsuchi, and 12 wells or 10 xian. Dr. Wang was taken aback for a moment. He straightened his expression and asked, "Where are the matching acupoints?" The disease is located in the lung health, and is accompanied by external acupoints and UG acupoints, Fu Yurong replied in a calm voice. When she was in the cave, she crossed her meridian for herself, which was called the Hongshu meridian. It was manifested as a division of qi in a rise in heat, with the resistance of the evil and the rise and fall of the evil, commonly seen in external heat diseases. Based on one's own symptoms, it is highly likely to be acute pneumonia caused by rain. "Did you have a pulse?" Dr. Wang said as he reached out and touched her pulse. "Overcoming the tide, come and go." Dr. Wang felt his pulse and knew that Fu Yurong was right, and his face immediately became a bit complicated. Although he majored in Western medicine, he still firmly believes that traditional Chinese medicine techniques in China have their profound and extensive aspects. Unfortunately, with Western medicine gradually becoming the mainstream and preferred medical treatment, traditional Chinese medicine has gradually declined. Unexpectedly, the little girl looks young and actually has some skills. The treatment methods and acupuncture points can be said to be learned from a book, but it is impossible to feel the pulse so accurately without hands. On experience. However, insiders watch the door and outsiders watch the excitement. Dr. Wang knows that Fu Yurong has a plan in mind, which is one thing, and whether the audience in the live broadcast room can understand it is another matter. "What's going on? Am I illiterate? I can't understand a single word, T.T. I suspect that Fu doesn't even know what he's talking about, just pretending to be forced," but she actually chatted with the doctor back and forth, looking like she answered fluently. "You don't understand that, there are so many prescriptions online. Just memorize a few, maybe a blind cat will run into a dead mouse." Medical student here, what she said is quite professional, and from her conversation with the doctor, it seems that she can sense the pulse. However, it is too early to make a definite conclusion at this time. All of these can be guessed and confused. Whether she has the real ability to see if she dares to get an injection will reveal. After confirming that Fu Yurong was not joking about his body for the sake of redness, Dr. Wang couldn't help but have an appreciative expression on his face. As he handed her the detoxified silver needle, he didn't forget to ask, "Shallow or deep?" "Shallow." Realizing that his energy was becoming increasingly weak, Fu Yurong took the silver needle and stopped talking nonsense. Without waiting for Dr. Wang to ask any more questions, he quickly gave himself the needle without blinking. Yang Jingyao looked bewildered all the way beside her. Since the conversation between Fu Yurong and Dr. Wang, she couldn't get in a word. At this moment, even before he could react, the other party had already injected silver needles into multiple acupoints. She didn't even know the specific names of those acupoints, but the other person's movements were so fast that she was afraid. She really doesn't understand traditional Chinese medicine, but Fu Yurong's injection is so agile, either she doesn't even understand it, and every operation is as fierce as a tiger, it looks like a 205. Either they are truly skilled in technology and skilled in techniques. If it's the latter, that's really madam, and madam are so happy. She knew without looking at the barrage that there might be many people kneeling and watching the live broadcast at this moment. Sure enough, my mother's vision is the best. I caught a glimpse of Fu Yurong, this dusty pearl. Dr. Wang nodded repeatedly as he watched the speed and angle of the little girl's injection, as well as her hand, which was still hanging still despite being very ill. Dr. Wang, could you please place blood in the veins on the back and tip of my ear? Fu Yurong handed out the three-edged needle, and by now she had almost exhausted her physical strength. Without saying a word, Dr. Wang received an ear needle and stabbed her at the designated location to release blood. The audience in the live broadcast room, who were stunned by Fu Yurong's move, only realized when the silver needle was finished. This. What's going on here? If you don't tell me, I can't understand, but I think it's amazing, class. Fu Yurong. This is still the Fu Yurong who only knows how to hold back a few days ago. Zundu, fake dough. Who will tell me if she has been taken away by some big shot? Chapter 6. Separation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After completing a set of needles and releasing blood at several key acupoints, Fu Yurong's body temperature immediately dropped to a normal level. At least she could feel that the sick breath in her body was not as uncomfortable as it was initially pressing her. Yang Jingyao was completely clueless about traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine, and couldn't help her with professional matters. She quickly ran to boil a pot of hot water for her and helped to brew a cup of sugar and salt water. For a moment, the people around me were not idle, and even the camera guy was working diligently with the machine on his shoulders. Therefore, the assistant director standing on the side, who was dumbfounded, seemed a bit out of place. I suddenly had an idea. What are you playing, mute fans? Calm down and think about it. Don't you think the deputy director mentioned that Fu Yurong knew acupuncture and moxibustion on purpose? It seems that he was digging a hole for her on purpose. Finally found someone who feels the same way as me. I just said it, but the barrage is cursing that little sister, and no one pays attention. Yeah. Black fans know she doesn't have any medical experience. The production team is going to sign a contract with the guests, so how could they not have understood? How dare the deputy director, in disguise, encourage Fu Yurong to give her a needle? Is there no other choice but to do this? By saying this, I suddenly believe that Fu Yurong's easily annoying and foolish behavior these past few days is due to the malicious targeting of the director's team. When there are many onlookers around an event, the direction of public opinion can change at any moment. A large number of people can easily lead to chaos and the spread of online violence. But with many people, there is also great power. In the second an impulse arises, reason is lost, leaving only malice. But after the impulse fades, reason returns, and some traps and schemes are almost exposed, making it clear to onlookers. Watching everyone say one word at a time, Hualiu, who was closely monitoring the barrage, finally couldn't sit still. What are you still doing here? Contact the Navy. Don't be fooled by his boundless glory on the Pineapple Channel now, but that is based on the premise that the program in his hands can produce results. Nowadays, with the development of the internet, when netizens unite to condemn someone, as long as their background is not really strong enough to kick them, they basically cannot eat good fruit. If this matter gets too big, he won't be able to secure his position as a director. Even if the higher-ups are willing to protect him, they may not dare to get involved in this muddy water. After all, if we really want to investigate, the exclusion of Fu Yurong by the program team these days is real. Even if netizens cannot provide conclusive evidence, as long as the public opinion pressure is strong enough, the station can dismiss him. The principle of abandoning a car to be handsome is the same everywhere. The director's team came out to speak. Why do they exclude a girl like this, just because a beautiful woman doesn't have backstage support? I've been wanting to say for a long time, this program used to be quite good and not very popular. Since a guest in a certain episode couldn't bear the environment and had their reputation ruined in front of the camera, and the program also went on hot searches for several days, director Xiu seems to have obtained traffic secrets, occasionally pulling out small celebrities without backstage to offer sacrifices to the heavens. Isn't that right? Did Fu invite the water army to leave the scene? Suddenly so many people spoke for her. It was specially arranged after she showed her acupuncture and moxibustion skills. What a coincidence. If it weren't for a show, I would have eaten the keyboard. Who knows if today's play was rehearsed by her already. Speaking of which, is it possible that acupuncture and moxibustion has nothing to do with the tasks released by the program group? Isn't it true that she has messed up several tasks these days? She is still holding a coffin face every day, dragging it like 2 to 5 or 8,000, and it's boring to watch. Me too. I'll skip her shot as soon as I get there. The other handsome guys and beautiful women have also received difficult tasks. They have some unfinished moments, but their attitude is good. She is the only one holding an expression. Is this setting up the image of an ice beauty? As soon as the Navy took action, the wind direction of the barrage was quickly controlled. It turned out that there were many people who disliked Fu Yurong, but they were immediately stirred up again. A group of people were arguing hysterically in the live broadcast room, but instead, it was Fu Yurong and his team who had a peaceful time here. Dr. Wang even chatted with her admiringly about some traditional Chinese medicine issues, and the two felt a bit resentful of meeting too late. Only the deputy director stood awkwardly on the side, toe-picking the ground. Young Jingyao would rather squat and listen to the two of them talk about heavenly books than go over and have a conversation with him. Let's go, Yurong. We need to go back to our headquarters and take a look. After resting for 2 hours in Dr. Wang's place, after experiencing physical cooling, acupuncture and moxibustion cooling and hot water sweating, Fu Yurong's temperature was successfully controlled, and people were also sobered up, except that he still felt pain when he was over his head. The so-called headquarters was the dilapidated wooden house with air leaks on all sides. Thinking of the other three people's perceptions of the original owner, Fu Yurong felt a bit annoyed. When she feels unwell, she really doesn't want to worry about these interpersonal relationships that are as winding as a mountain road. Now she just wants to have a good sleep. Anyway, there is no mandatory requirement for team collaboration in the tasks released by the production team. Perhaps she means maybe, if given the opportunity, she could consider doing it on her own, maybe even achieving twice the result with half the effort. After all, she is now Nyo Keilu Yurong, who combines various Chinese skills. Just as I walked outside the wooden house, I ran into Zhao Shiwen head-on. Ah! Sister Yurong, you have finally come back. The other party's tone was enthusiastic, but the disgusted expression that couldn't be perfectly concealed, as well as the meaningful, finally back, sentence with a long tail, were all discreetly squeezing her. Fu Yurong glanced at her and nodded slightly, Watching her figure walk into the wooden house, Zhao Shiwen couldn't help but roll her eyes in the dead corner of the camera. What kind of outfit, just that dead face, not even able to smile well, no wonder it's not pleasing. Li Peichen and Chen Luoyu in the room also heard Zhao Shiwen's voice and looked towards the door, in line with Fu Yurong who was entering. Shoo! Chen Luoyu sneered and immediately turned his head, using his actions to prove what it means to give the other person an extra look without showing respect. He even muttered, the busy person disappeared all day and can be considered back. Li Peichen wanted to ease the awkward and tense atmosphere, so he quickly put on a smile and asked, Yurong, are you feeling unwell? You look very pale. Young Jingyao, who was hidden behind the camera, saw that she was planning to nod again and quickly explained to her in a low voice, Yurong has a high fever and just returned from Dr. Wang's side. As soon as these words came out, Li Peichen was taken aback. He did see that the other person's face was not very good looking, but he didn't expect it to be so serious. Chen Luoyu, who had been sneering the previous minute, had his ears twitching and his face was a bit uncomfortable, but he still had a stiff mouth and said, every day I drag my legs. He murmured softly, not so much complaining, but rather forcefully trying to show respect for himself. After whispering, he planned to reveal this episode as if nothing had happened. Unexpectedly, the next second a hoarse female voice would sound. How about we do the task separately? Chapter 7. Seeking help from Young PD. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Separate, then separate. Hualiu didn't react for a moment and muttered, only to realize the other person's meaning after this brainless sentence was spoken. Shocked, regretful, bewildered, various emotions mixed on his face, paired with his mouth shape that kept opening and closing but never uttering a word. It looked really similar a screaming chicken that was choked by someone. Li Peichen never expected Fu Yurong to propose such a suggestion. He frowned and tried to reconcile, saying, Yurong, Luoyu was just rushing to talk, and you were also sick. We can still take care of each other when we gather together. Luoyu couldn't say a decent word on his own, and finally Li Peichen became his mouthpiece. Because he was accustomed to being stubborn in his daily life, he reflexively wanted to refute. But seeing Fu Yurong's pale and sickly appearance, he exerted all his strength to control his broken mouth, which could not speak well. Although his face was still awkward, his eyes were honest and nervously focused on the other person's reaction. Heaven and earth have a conscience. His mouth smells a bit, but he has no intention of driving a girl out of the team alone. He can't do such a scumbag even without manners. Zhao Shiwen, who remained silent on the side, noticed the expressions of the two men and sighed regretfully in her heart. Wow, I thought I could go my separate ways with that procrastinator today. These two people didn't seize the great opportunity and were indecisive. Thank you for Chen's kindness. I feel sorry for always dragging everyone down, so I'll split it out myself so that everyone can progress faster. They all work in the entertainment industry, who wouldn't know how to act? Fu Yurong showed a melancholic expression, then made a determined gesture and silently turned around to pack his sleeping bag, gesturing for Yang PD to follow her. Until their backs disappeared from sight, the three of them in the wooden house remained stunned without any reaction. Is this really leaving now? Zhao Shiwen was filled with joy in her daze. She thought that the dragging oil bottle wouldn't work, but she didn't expect another village with hidden willows and bright flowers. Variety shows, whoever has more shots has a greater chance of making a name for themselves. They work in groups of 3 here, and it's not surprising that the camera will lean towards them. She's also the only girl, and as long as she comes, the production team will treat her to some extent. Whether to say it or not. It's a bit refreshing. Zhao Shiwen was secretly enjoying herself on one side, while on the other side, Li Peichen and Luoyu were incredulous, one by one. Especially on Luo Island. On how to use one sentence to make others feel extremely guilty. He feels this way now. Fu Yurong was still sick and ended up being driven away by himself just thinking of her fragile expression just now. Luoyu had to wake up in the middle of the night and slap herself twice. The guests were filled with excitement, confusion, and regret, and the barrage in the live broadcast room never stopped. What is Fu doing? Is this a medical person who has set up a new and innovative path? Ha ha ha, I'm laughing to death. With her useless behavior, she dares to leave the team alone. I'm afraid she'll have to come back crying tomorrow and beg the main army to take her in. I think you overestimated her. Maybe you don't even need to come back tomorrow. At most, you'll have to come back disheveled tonight. Luoyu's words are too hard to hear. I can't stand it if I don't steam Mantu. I hope the beautiful women can cheer up and don't be looked down upon. My older brother just got used to being straightforward. Besides, isn't what he said unreasonable? Did he accuse her of dragging her back and wrongly accusing her? The onlookers see clearly. Is this Zhao Shiwen's top-notch green tea? The tea flavor is very strong. Seeing the beautiful woman leave, her mouth is almost on the tip of her ear, it's really hard to bear it for you. Insulting and slandering are illegal. I advise upstairs to keep their mouths shut and not leave them here to talk nonsense on the barrage. There was a constant debate among fans, and black fans, but the overall trend was that Fu Yurong was pretending to be forced to establish his character, and all the comments were pessimistic. Yang Jingyao followed closely behind Fu Yurong. To be honest, she didn't really agree with the other party's decision. Although Fu Yurong's acupuncture and moxibustion skill revealed today has impressed her, the girl's physique is weak and the task released by the program group is heavy. No matter how you look at it, it is not realistic to have a single team. She had a heart to persuade, but judging from her brief interactions in the past 2 days, Fu Yurong seemed weak but actually had a firm heart. It was obvious that he had already made up his mind, and she didn't need to ruin the fun. Besides, maybe she'll be fired tomorrow. That Hualiu is not a person with a big belly, and her words when she is feeling emotional are not pleasant to listen to. It's strange that the other party doesn't hold grudges. Yang Jingyao knew she was also a mud bodhisattva crossing the river now, so why not go with Fu Yurong? Perhaps how can people fight a beautiful turnaround in the situation that people are not optimistic about, just like acupuncture and moxibustion? Fu Yurong seemed to be walking aimlessly, but in reality, he had been observing and listening from all directions. After making sure that the camera around her didn't follow closely, she deftly took off the radio receiver clipped at the collar and turned her face slightly to ask Yang Jingyao softly, "Yang PD, can you help me get my phone back first? It's already halfway through today, and since her body hasn't fully recovered yet, why not take a day off and wait until she's fully rested before doing the task?" Although the production team is unscrupulous, they will not allow guests to starve to death. Every day, they will give each person a cabbage and a small handful of rice and noodles to maintain their basic needs. In other words, if they don't complete the task, they won't be able to eat a big meal, but it's still okay to barely fill their stomachs. Of course, the resources on the island are relatively abundant. If guests can obtain additional ingredients through their own efforts, the program team will not stop them and may even give appropriate point rewards. For Fu Yurong, who has lived in multiple time and space, and has learned various skills, surviving in the wilderness is not difficult. Unfortunately, her body, which had just developed a high fever, was tired and lazy. She really didn't have the motivation to find any ingredients, so she decided to take a break for herself today. Anyway, I've grown used to eating plain and watery cabbage these past few days, so it doesn't matter if I eat another meal. The most important thing is that she is now in a single team. You don't have to look at the faces of others, nor do you have to listen to their arrangements, the main focus is on a casual freedom. Taking advantage of today's holiday, she needs to take care of the reckless director team first. This is not only to seek justice for her original identity, but also to plan for her future situation on the show. Since all the coldness and exclusion experienced by the original body come from the director's team, solving the problem naturally needs to start from the source. Upon hearing Fu Yurong's still hoarse voice, Yang Jingyao suddenly turned her head to look at her and caught her off guard with a cunning expression. It's like a little fox quietly poking and digging a hole for someone. Chapter 8. Director Team Replacement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Director Zhua, this is really too much. How could Fu Yurong, a little girl, possibly complete these tasks? Xiaoyang, Zhua, I understand that you are a bit naive when you first entered the industry. I forgive your offense. In this circle, the hardest truth is whether the backstage is tough or not. If there is no conflict in the program, where will the highlights come from and where will the popularity come from? But even if there's a conflict, she can't handle it alone. There's a lot of online abuse now, and I see that she's not in the right state. Don't really make things worse. There are only 4 guests, 3 of whom are the company's popular storefronts. If I don't kill her, who will I kill? Will I offend the other 3 big Buddhas? Director Zhua. I think. Alright, don't stay here if you have nothing to do. What can Fu Yurong do? I see she's doing very well, with a gloomy face all day long. It's not a good thing to look at her. She can't even suffer from depression. Director Zhua. In the office of Liang Xiaoyun, vice president of Pineapple TV, a clearly conflicting recording is playing. The man sitting behind the desk has a heavy face like water. After the recording was finished, only one room remained silent. For a long time, the sound of fingers tapping on the table sounded, and the slightly rapid rhythm seemed to indicate the owner's complex emotions. After sending the recording, Fu Yurong obediently returned his phone to Yang PD. Faced with Yang Jingyao's suspicious gaze, Fu Yurong widened his eyes and looked back. His left face was written obedient and his right face was written harmless. It seems that the little fox-like smiling face doesn't exist when asking for a phone. Yang Jingyao. This woman is not good at martial arts and is trying to use beauty tactics. The scariest thing is that she really likes this tactic. Strange to say, as Fu Yurong's co-director, she knew from the beginning that this girl was good-looking. But I don't know if it's her illusion, she always feels that this guy has become even more beautiful today. Even though she was still sick, her face was pale and bloodless, and her hair was messy. She didn't have the glamorous image of a female celebrity that everyone remembered. Unfortunately, it is such a small face with a plain face facing the sky, but it makes people feel like they cannot move their eyes. Is it because of a change in temperament? A few days ago, Fu Yurong always lowered his face and his eyes were not very willing to meet people. His entire temperament was very dark, and his originally superior facial features were also covered in dust. The first thing that catches people's attention is not her beauty, but her gloominess, which makes the first impression unpleasant. Nowadays, she is still the same person, just tied up her hair, revealing a smooth forehead and big eyes with sparkling eyes. Coupled with a slight smile on her face, this girl suddenly became lively. Like a dusty pearl, she finally began to shine with her own radiance. Fu Yurong didn't know what Yang Jingyao was thinking, he only knew that the other person's expression was ever-changing, sometimes with a squint, sometimes deep and serious, looking as if schizophrenia. After sending the recording, Fu Yurong realized a big thing in his heart. He was in a good mood and did not delve into when his PD learned the facial transformation skill. She whistled towards the cave. The clear and mellow whistling sound is like the singing of birds. The air is moist water vapor after rainstorm, and the singing of birds is as light as if it has the power to break through the haze. I had no dreams all night. The next day was a nice day. When the sunlight fell on the cave entrance, Fu Yurong, who had slept soundly, stretched out lazily and crawled out of his sleeping bag. She still has 2 bottles of water and some toiletries left in her backpack. There are freshwater resources on this island, but they are far from wooden houses and caves, making it very inconvenient to fetch water. If we want to build a house next, the site selection must take into account the water source issue. Either build according to the water source or find a way to divert water, the specific plan depends on the terrain and geology. She flipped out her mouthwash cup, ready to brush her teeth and wash her face first, and then see if she could find something nearby to fill her stomach. Unexpectedly, as soon as I walked out of the cave, I ran into Yang PD who was rushing in. Yurong, the morning shooting will be cancelled first, and the afternoon schedule is pending. Don't run around and rest here with peace of mind. I will notify you then. Yang Jingyao was a bit panicked, but more of a surprise. The sudden suspension of such a large live broadcast program not only puts the station at risk of economic losses, but also public relations pressure. Especially when facing pressure from fans from all over the world. My Own Cooking is still recording a program, and fans are inevitably worried that it may be their brother/sister who is in trouble. These suspicions all need to be addressed by the authorities, and for a moment, all those involved were in a state of anxiety. Yang Jingyao is just a small follow-up director, and even when the sky falls, it's not her turn to stand up. She only knew that something should have happened on the director's side, and it was clearly not a trivial matter, but she did not receive any more specific information. But that's enough for her to be happy. Sure enough, people are watching the sky. It seems that Zhuo is going to suffer retribution. Upon hearing Yang PD's words, Fu Yurong nodded calmly, indicating that he knew. Excited, Yang Jingyao didn't have time to think about why the other party wasn't surprised at all. After informing her, she hurriedly ran away. Fu Yurong watched her leave, letting the warm sunshine of early autumn morning fall on her face. The message that needs to be conveyed to Liang Xiaoyun was clearly stated in yesterday's email with an accompanying recording. Smart people naturally know how to make choices. There are two vice presidents on Pineapple TV, one is Liang Xiaoyun and the other is Kong Qingwei. Due to recent personnel changes on satellite TV, the position of CEO has been vacant. The competition between these two people is fierce, and they both try to erase the subtitles in front of their titles. Hualiu is the person under Kong Qingwei's command. Vice President Kong of Pineapple TV is also the backbone of Hualiu's domineering behavior in Taiwan. Kong Qingwei and Hualiu are two birds of a feather, willing to betray their conscience in order to achieve their goals. Fu Yurong handed the other party's handle to Liang Xiaoyun through a recording. Those who can achieve the position of vice president in a large company have some means. She has already handed over the knife, and whether she can put this sharp blade on Kong Qingwei's neck and send him up by himself depends on Liang Xiaoyun's operation. Unfortunately, personal strength ultimately cannot shake capital. Fu Yurong doesn't think his recording can turn the show upside down. After all, Island Survival is a facade variety show that Pineapple has invested heavily in promoting. With her current status and strength, facing such a large company is no less than shaking a tree with a flea. If she tries to manipulate the cake of capital, capital may directly crush her. So she took a step back and handed over the recording to Liang Xiaoyun. She indirectly helped him or promised not to expose the recording, but he had to help her pull down the directing team. In the future, if he successfully takes the position of CEO, he will have to help her send in a group of executioners who forced the original owner to death. Watching Yang Jingyao's gradually disappearing figure, Fu Yurong picked up his mouthwash cup and began brushing his teeth in a great mood. Collaborating with smart people is enjoyable. If nothing unexpected happens, she won't have to see those disgusting things like Hualiu again in the upcoming program. Chapter 9. Principles of Waste Utilization. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Given the size of Pineapple TV and its generous promotional efforts, it is not an exaggeration to say that Island Survival is currently the hottest variety show. The ranking of certain famous scenes in the daily live broadcast room on the hot search list is even higher than that of celebrities who specifically spend money on marketing. The program was suspended on this weekend, and the number of people waiting to watch the live broadcast was already much higher than on weekdays. As a result, after the usual start time of the program, there was no news from the official side. After the fans patiently squatted for more than half an hour, they also waited for news that the program would be suspended for a whole morning and whether it would resume in the afternoon. Pineapple TV is urgently deploying a new team to rush to the island, and as soon as the recording incident involving Hualiu is reported, Kong Qingwei is also involved. It can only be said that there is no impermeable wall in the world. In the workplace, delivering charcoal in the snow is not common, and the only common thing is to throw stones in the well. If Xianyan and Kong are good people on a daily basis, it's just that. However, they have made many enemies in the company, and when they see opportunities to pull them down, everyone is naturally either overt or covert, and one more step is one more. Pull out the radish and bring out the mud. Many things are not completely unknown, it's just a lack of determination to rectify them. Now that the situation has escalated, the board of directors only realizes how outrageous some of the things Xianyan and Kong have done behind the scenes. Once those ugly things are exposed, it is one thing for these two people to have a bad reputation, and they may even have to drag the company down. Throughout the morning, Pineapple TV was working hard to deal with the emergency internally. After the official Weibo account of Island Survival announced the suspension of broadcasting, it went into hiding, and even netizens dared not respond easily to any question marks posted below. I'm afraid of saying too much and making too many mistakes. If I say something wrong again and get pulled out by fans who have a better sense of smell than Turin, they can't bear the anger of the higher-ups. The fans had no response to their inquiries on the official blog, so they turned to the program's chat community to post and discuss. Amidst speculations about cooking at home, one post stood out with its own popularity and made it all the way to the top 10 on the entertainment chart. Rumor has it that the emergency suspension of Island Survival is due to an incident with the original director's team. Pineapple TV is urgently switching to a new team, and if there are no unforeseen circumstances, it should resume live streaming in the afternoon. As soon as this post was posted, the comments below immediately exploded. Is it true that there are noses and eyes to say, sleeping slot? If it's true, that would be too much fun. Zhuegu is finally going to be cleaned up. I've been displeased with him for a long time. Those tasks don't even treat guests as people, they keep entertaining the audience by making guests act like jumping clowns. So, is it true that I, Yurong female goose, was isolated under the guidance of the director's team? Whispering, you're really enough upstairs. There's nothing wrong with Sister Fu from your family. Is this gossip really hard to say? Why, when I heard about an incident with the director's team, I pushed Sister Fu's performance as a crotch jerker onto the director. Look at this pot, it's big and round. Although the comments under the post are noisy and no one is convinced, at least 2/3 of people inexplicably believe this so-called gossip. There is no other reason. The suspension of the program this morning came too strangely, and the official Weibo has been pretending to be dead even after sending the notice. In the eyes of netizens, it is no different from feeling guilty. Some news in the entertainment industry is always true and false, false and true. However, if someone is idle and has nothing to do with summarizing, they will find that many unknown sources of gossip are often mixed with truth and sometimes even mixed in. There are many rumors that have been debunked at present, but have been confirmed again after a few months or years. This kind of reversal is not uncommon, so most melon-eating people believe that there is no room for improvement. In the executive office of Pineapple TV, Liang Xiaoyun listened to the latest public opinion trends reported by his confidant and nodded in satisfaction. Continue monitoring and release the announcement that Hualiu has taken over the new project and the time is almost up. Amidst the sound of his confidant leaving the office and closing the door, Liang Xiaoyun smiled with a clear victory in hand. The post in the Super Talk was instructed by him to be released by the Navy. Dealing with villains like Kong Qingwei and showing mercy to the other person is being ruthless towards oneself. If a person who seeks revenge cannot crush them to death with just one blow, they will definitely have no good fruit to eat when the other person overturns the plate in the future. Cutting the grass without removing its roots, the spring breeze blows and it grows again. He still has more negative evidence about Kong Qingwei, and pushing Hualiu out to offer sacrifices to the heavens is just the first step. The trend on the internet is now clear at a glance, so even if the company wants to take this matter lightly, under the pressure given by the average Sherlock Holmes netizen, Hualiu can't get along well. But it's just that the first season of Island Survival has achieved beautiful results. He has many good directors, such as Hualiu, and there are more outstanding directors waiting to take the lead. Of course, this program is currently the flagship variety show of Pineapple TV. Since he is planning to take over the position of CEO soon, he naturally cannot let this money tree be destroyed in his own hands. Hualiu can leave, but the program must continue to be broadcast normally. Coincidentally, Hualiu did have a project that had already been confirmed before. He made a name for himself and it was reasonable to transfer Hualiu away. As for how Hualiu, who has completely lost his audience appeal in the eyes of the board of directors, will be handled in the future, that is what happened above. In this way, he also fulfilled the first request made by the girl. What about the second requirement? It's not too late to take action once the remaining value of this person is drained. Isn't it just waste utilization? He's best at it. Asterisk at noon that day, the official Weibo account of Island Survival once again responded to the suspension issue and explained the hot post on the Super Talk community, stating that the director team was indeed changed, but the reason for changing the team was due to scheduling conflicts. We also posted the previously scheduled new project schedule as proof and strongly condemned those who spread rumors. The poster of the gossip deleted the post and knelt down, sincerely confessing that he should not make up anything to attract attention, and actively posted an apology post, begging the program team to take legal measures. The vast majority of fans were successfully convinced by this argument, while a small number of netizens who still had doubts were also diverted from the list of new director teams released by the official blog. At Variety Island Survival. The live broadcast will resume at 2 p.m. Let's welcome director Xianyan to join the island, and we will see each other in the afternoon. It's hard to describe my shock even when it comes to sleeping in bed. Whether or not, Pineapple TV really has some ideas. It's amazing that they can invite director Cheng out of the mountains again. Chapter 10. The Born Protagonist. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xianyan was one of the first famous directors to receive the benefits of variety shows when they first became popular. From his initial exposure to the entertainment industry to his voluntary decision to retire, this period happened to be exactly 10 years. In the past decade, he has produced a total of 5 programs, and these programs have become so popular that when he leaves the old program to take over a new variety show, fans will burst into tears and reluctant to part. The style of the director team he leads is very obvious. Firstly, it does not follow a rigid path, and the atmosphere of the guest group in the program is excellent, with strong humanistic care. Secondly, the later stage of the program has a high level of copywriting skills, with frequent voiceovers and golden sentences, and is best at giving people a warm and long-lasting power in inconspicuous places. Before his retirement, on his last program, variety show special effects began to be sought after by young audiences. Xianyan's team followed the trend and later urgently took relevant courses. The special effects he produced were naturally interesting, either eye-catching or hilarious. When it comes to famous directors in the film and television industry, there may still be disputes, but when it comes to famous directors in the variety show industry, Xianyan is definitely recognized as the founder. This is a talented variety show director who is not very old, but at the age of 45, he bravely retreated due to his old age. His wife was 7 years younger than him, and at the age of 38, she took the risk of giving birth to a child for him. Whenever Xianyan mentioned this, he couldn't help but burst into tears. For him, fame and fortune are far less important than accompanying his wife and children. After he retired and returned to his family, many companies attempted to invite him back to the workforce but failed to do so. Unexpectedly, after 5 years, this great Buddha was invited out again by Pineapple TV. Asterisk, I don't know if Xiaobao is well behaved at home today, sigh, T to the power of T, on the speedboat sent by the program team to pick up people, Xianyan sighed for the nth time. The staff on the side looked numb, and at first he tried to comfort director Cheng, who was homesick as soon as he left. But he never expected that with just a few repetitive lines, Cheng Dao could recite them to him all the way. The staff frowned bitterly, while Cheng Dao, a good man who loves home, frowned bitterly. If it weren't for repaying Liang Xiaoyun's kindness, he would have made up his mind not to return to the martial arts world. His fate with Liang Xiaoyun is also coincidental. When his wife was giving birth, her condition was critical, and as a result, the house leaked and it rained continuously at night. On the way to the hospital, his car broke down. For a married man, this kind of experience is almost like gouging flesh out of his heart, causing him to feel numb in pain. It also takes time for the traffic police to send a car over. His wife's condition at the time was already very dangerous, and in almost a minute, there was hope for the safety of the mother and son. The passing car owner either didn't stop or was afraid of getting into trouble and didn't want to help. Just as he was so anxious that he got angry, Xianyan, who happened to pass by, helped the person onto the car without saying a word. After meeting the traffic police on the road, the group rushed to the hospital in a life-and-death rush. Although both adults and children managed to get through the gates of hell smoothly in the end, the doctor also said that if they came a little later, they probably wouldn't be able to survive. Xianyan, still in shock, made a promise to Xianyan that if Xianyan needed him in the future, as long as it did not violate the law or human nature, he would do anything he could to help. 5 years passed in a blink of an eye, and this time he returned to his old job at the request of Xianyan. And there is another reason. His wife was extremely excited when she heard that Xianyan invited him to take over the program Island Survival. She kept trying to please him, saying that she had a good eye for a little girl named Yurong in the program. After asking him to come over, don't bully the girl who has no backstage. If there is a chance, it's best to help her get a signature. On one hand, there was a life-saving kindness, and on the other hand, there was an instruction from his own wife to kiss him. Even if Xianyan wanted to stay at home and teach his wife and children, he had no reason to refuse. Sigh. Sigh. Xianyan let out another sigh, only to realize that it was a duet. He turned his head to look at a staff member with furrowed eyebrows and lowered eyes. After enduring it for a while, he finally asked curiously, "Why are you sighing?" The staff looked at you with an expression of no AC number in your heart, but unfortunately, Director Ching didn't understand and sighed, "I understand. You also want to have a wife and children. Ah, family is indeed the harbor that good men love the most, staff. Thank you. I am a great young man, and I haven't even talked about my girlfriend yet. Even if you say I am married and have children. Also, if you want to praise yourself, there's no need to beat around the bush. Just say it directly." As the speedboat approached the small island, the hungry Yurong was standing near the sea fishing with a wooden harpoon. After eating several meals of boiled vegetables in a row, Yurong sincerely admires those weight loss and fitness enthusiasts who use boiled vegetables as their staple food. This kind of perseverance is not something that ordinary people can possess. If she continues to eat like this, birds will fade out of her mouth. Coincidentally, her body has almost recovered, and with the strong wind and heavy rain yesterday, it is expected that the fish school near the sea will be denser than usual today. If not, she can still pick up some shellfish that have been swept ashore by the wind and waves from the beach to improve her diet. With this idea in mind, she came carrying her homemade harpoon. As the speedboat that Xianyan and his companions were about to approach, Yurong aimed at a leisurely swimming big fat fish below the water surface and raised his harpoon high. For someone who has been immersed in the directing industry for many years, appreciating and capturing beauty is an instinct. At that moment, Yurong's movements almost froze in Xianyan's eyes as if he had added a highlight filter. Accompanied by the girl's forceful throwing of the harpoon into the water, Dao's eyes suddenly flashed like bulging bubbles with 100 watts of headlights installed. Sure enough, some occupational diseases cannot be cured no matter how many years he retires. Before he could see the girl's face clearly, Xianyan had an inexplicable intuition based solely on her upright posture and neat fish fork movements. This girl is sure to be popular. This intuition was so intense that he couldn't wait to glimpse the other person's true face. Yurong contentedly lifted the fork with a string of big fat fish from the water, and the crazily swaying fish tail shook the water droplets on her face. She didn't mind, but instead showed a happy smile. At that moment, she took the time to look in the direction where the sound of the speedboat came from. Under the clear sunlight and the shimmering seawater, the girl's already stunning appearance was as if she had been coated with a layer of brightening filters, full of vitality and spiritual pressure. This scene gave the group on the speedboat a strong eye attack. It turns out that some people seem to be born as the protagonist in front of the camera. At that moment, Xianyan suddenly remembered a poem, "Gold scales are not things in the pool, they transform into dragons when encountering wind, rain, and clouds.